Okay, we're back again. Today we are doing the Woody motor setup. I have my pointer. What we have is we have our block. This is the block I did the 7,000 RPM shift at and blew every single valve to pieces, and the camshafts and the roller rockers and the HLAs and the valve guide. So this is that motor. That's not good. Bottom end. We've cleaned up the bottom end. I didn't show you that. If you'd want to see that, it was pretty horrific. There'd be too many people saying don't do that. You can see I have parked the locking pin in the webbing as per the instructions. Now this is particularly important. I'm going to go through this nonsense with you because this engine was stripped down to a block. Different head was installed. Bits have come off it. We've done water pumps. We've done sump seals. We've done a bunch of checking over and cleaning and prepping up. We're building a bit of a Frankenstein because it's today getting a set of 197/200 out of a Clio 3 F4R set of camshafts that have come out of another guy's vehicle and then sat on the shelf, got a bit of rust in them, so we're going to clean that rust up. We've done that. So it's all coming together. So let me just show you. If you grab yourself a set of instructions, it's going to tell you two things. When you're parking your locking pin through the bunghole, which locates there, right? It's designed to interlock between some webbing. Now I could probably go and find you a cylinder, a counterweight, and demonstrate this, but the way you know you've got it parked is when she's home, she won't go in, she won't move. So she won't move away and she won't move forward. Right? So we're stuck here. The other way, to be sure, is the instructions will say, once you have parked it in the correct webbing, if you have the opportunity like I have, I'll move this round, the keyway that doesn't get used, but it's been cut into the crank, because they use these cranks on all the F4Rs, it needs to line between the two casting marks roughly halfway. So you can see I've painted them yellow. You've got casting, and a halfway point, which completely corresponds to what someone has drawn in this little picture. Okay, so that's how you know. That's indicating the center line of that casting. So I'm confident, without pulling my sump off, the final check, the way I like to check if you're a real purist, is this motor parks on top dead center. That's what they always do. So which means if you go get something soft like my whipping stick, put it in cylinder 1, it should go straight down through the spark plug hole and touch the top of the piston. Right? Then when you go to number 2, it should drop down from there all that way. Now, if you still weren't sure if you were right, you wanted to be purely 100%, you would actually be able to pull out a more accurate measuring stick, poke it back in, providing that the castings on the head were the same, you could measure the depth from there to there, which would tell you that one of your pistons is at top and the other one's at bottom, because that's the furthest apart these two go. Now, the purist might say, well, I'd get a dial indicator. We'll get a dial indicator. Put the dial indicator all the way at the top and all the way at the bottom. We can do that too. There's a few different ways, but not everyone's got a dial indicator. Most people have the engine when they're doing the job. Everyone should have the locking pin, and you can probably find a nice soft plastic stick, a piece of bamboo, something that's not going to score your bores, score your pistons, nice and soft, hasn't been in the garden. You can just go around dropping it down, going, yep, that's touching, and that seems to be going in full depth. Now the reason that had to be done first is because now you have to put some camshafts in. The next thing with your camshaft is you're going to want your camshaft locking tool, which I've got here. I can't assemble it or put it in yet, but remember, doing all this, so I'm not going to set any special group end timing, it's just going to be standard timing if you refer to your notes, which you will receive. Some of them will draw the picture of the camshaft. I haven't got it here. Basically, the camshaft, yes, so this picture here. So it draws the center line of your camshaft, and it tells you where the item should see. So if we draw it in, so we go to number 4, instruction number 4, the camshafts have the offset groove. Now because we're setting it up for the first time, and you should be aware of this when you're setting it up for yourself, 4 says, ensure the grooves in the rear camshaft are horizontally aligned. Well, that doesn't tell you much. But they don't fit on the horizontal, they're slightly off. Alright, so let me grab the camshafts. Alright, so here we are with a set of a set of 197 camshafts. You can see this one is the intake with the crank angle, with the cam angle sensor on it. So you know that's going to go on the business end. That's going to live in here. And this one is obviously exhaust, but these aren't centralized. There's a top and there's a bottom. There's a single line and then there's a high side and a low side. I don't think these fellas demonstrate it as showing the low side down. Okay, so when I install them, I need to have that horizontal line straight through the top. So stick my exhaust on, drop it in, like such, exhaust cam. This one is my intake cam, again to the lower side, drop that in. Now this is where we're going to deviate off the plan a little bit, because as you can see, nothing wants to park itself perfectly. Alright, so what are we going to do? I'll show you what we're going to do. We're going to take our pin out. We're going to continue to move our crank through the horizontal, through a clockwise direction, and we're going to move it about 90 degrees. Okay? The reason I've done that is now I've dropped this crank down a little bit. I might show you again so you can watch my little stick, and down. See that? Drop down. So you're saying, well, why do we want to do that, Luke? And that's a fair question. The answer is we're going to be pushing these valves down. We don't have the beauty of the cam cover being located correctly. If you install it with that parked slightly down, you can freely turn these camshafts. I'm not saying that's what you need to do, I'm not encouraging you to do it. What I'm saying is it's going to give you an extra element of safety to your engine assembly. So I've got that parked like that now, it's not quite right. I'll turn it over, drop it back in, see how it wants to sit itself in a natural position, because you're trying to push down, you're pushing against your rockers, you're pushing against your valve springs. So you're never going to get it spot on. And I don't have the luxury, because we don't have the locking tool, I can't install the locking tool. So I'm better off having all this nonsense just floating, knowing that I've parked my camshaft in a safe position. Okay, it's not in the instructions, this is just something you know when you work on engines and you do this sort of stuff. Okay, bring this back over here, a bit more stuff to do here, but relatively well prepped. Take my stick out, then on the workbench, So now I'm going to grab my Lubrassembly camshaft engine. I'm going to poke a bit of this magic stuff in. Basically its job is to keep everything alive and running smoothly up until the point at which oil pressure is created to feed these bearing journals. Now remember, we're doing this assembly. Jesus. We don't want to get it on our mounting surfaces, like I just keep doing. For where we're going to try and seal our motor. It's going to ooze up, but we want to try and give ourselves the best chance. Before I put the top side on, I'm going to seal that one as well. In fact, what I'm going to do in this case is I'm going to seal the top cam cover, drop the cams in. So, just going to give it a little bit more lube just to help things along. Because it's hard to put this stuff back in the motor once the motor's assembled. So I'm just putting a bit on my rollers. So they'll go over the cam lobes on first rotation, or as we're rotating and they're getting set up. Alright, we've got enough initial lube there. I'm happy. Intake camshaft. God, I hope I'm not forgetting. The intake camshaft, roughly located the centre line towards the top, the groove towards the base, bottom. Just going to feed it in here. See where she wants to sit. So she said, oh, I'll just sit like that. Okay, so it means that I can pull that down. Take my exhaust camshaft. Again, slot towards the bottom, generally speaking. Drop it in. So it's just sitting nicely. Both of these cams are just slightly off top dead centre. They're just sitting in a little rock position there. Alright, I don't want to spread too much of this goop everywhere. I've already spread a little bit down the bottom, but you can never have too much of a good thing. Okay. Clean rag and some brake clean. If I bring this trolley, hopefully it'll come into view. Just gonna get the instructions out of the way. Give that a hit. I've already cleaned it down pretty well, so I'm not too worried about it. Give it a wipe. So this is the side I'm going to apply my sealant to, or I assemble the camshaft, the cam cover. I'm going to show you how they do it here, but there is another method which I use on Volvos, and that's where I actually pull down the camshafts, pull down this cam cover using the spark plug holes. It's another method, but it's more popular on the 5-cylinder Volvos than on these units. This has all been cleaned. This stuff doesn't want to come out. It's a nice finish on that, so I'm happy. What's going on there? I don't really care. come over to here. Just going to give my rag a bit of a wipe. No, sorry, my rag a bit of a dosing. Just going to come down around these spark plug holes because you don't want to have a seal issue there. Do the front edge. Make sure that seals up pretty well. And the back edge. Now I'm going to take my 515. Now I'm going to seal on here because these sides are bigger and this is smaller. So I can be more precise with my application. So again, I'm not worried about that void in there. I'm worried about is this void where your spark plug lives. Let's get this out. This is 515, there's a 518, there's a 510. Okay, just run that round like that. Remember, this is going to squish down hard, so you don't have to have tons of it. You're just wasting it otherwise. You need to clean it out of your tube sockets, it gets on your spark plug leads. There we go, another one. The reason this is important is you don't want to open your car, go to do a timing spark plug one day and find a valley full of spark plug hole full of oil. Unless it's this number one, which is the one that relates to your Camshaft, your Dephaser solenoid. Alright, now we've got the front edge here. So again, you don't have to smear everything, but you do want to get right up the front here because there's a seal going in there. Bring it round and up to that one, and such. On the front edge, doing the same. Remember, it's got to match up with the cam seal that you're going to install. That's the dowel. And down the front. Working a bit blind here, but that's the sort of idea I was after. Now remember, there's a plug in the back, so we need to come across to where that plug marries up. Just don't like this method of these tubes that they give us. Stuff. Across to there. Okay, just make sure I've got enough on that edge. It's going to squish down. Okay, top side as well. So around the back, better do around the back. Remember, from where your bung's going to sit, which is going to be in there, just come across the back to there. From this, where this bung's going to sit, that's ridiculous. Sure, someone's going to tell me, you know, you can roll this up and extract it all, and I'm just going to say yes, it looked like that. I've just never seen anyone do it. Right. There we go. We'll start here, and that where that seal lives, around that way. And back up. Okay, now I saw another guy on the interweb this morning complaining about a leak from bolts. So somehow his bolts were leaking oil up. I don't know how he thought he was going to fix it without pulling this off, but he seemed to think he was going to use a bit of silicone. Good luck to you, mate. So if you're worried about what that guy was worried about, you might go silly and put them all around these bung holes. But if the thing gets pulled down, it's going to be fine. Now I'm a bit of an over the top sort of guy, so I'm going to go over the top here. Make sure I don't have any leaks. This is called going over the top. Bring it out to there, there. So basically you want to make sure that your thread, somehow oil and pressure is not going to get in your thread and go up. Don't think it can happen. This guy believed it was. I don't want to spoil his story. And I don't want the same thing to happen, so let's just seal the heck out of it. Seal. Oh, sorry, hands this. Over here. This way in here, there you go. Then we'll come back in here, click that a bit, click that a bit. And then we've got all these little ones in here that old mate seems to think is going to leak. So give them a bit. Tick, 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 tickety boo. Alright. I think that's more than a sufficient amount of waste of anaerobic sealant. Like I said, the critical areas is along the external seams and up to and including where your seals are going to sit, your rear seals and your front camshaft seal. Alright, now I might go and get the camshaft seals because I've found they're so much easier to put in as you're pulling this job down. Okay, I've cleaned all the surface up, so I'll just grab the camshaft seals. So we're glued down, no rush. We've lubed down, no rush. We've got these parked in the rough position, no rush, so we don't need to turn them too much. We're not using the hold down tool. We've got our camshaft seals in and just located in out of the shoulder. Okay. Again, you can push them in a bit further if you get a problem later, but it's easy to have them in, semi-located, ready to go. Your dowels are all on there to guide this assembly on. That's been cleaned. I don't need any more 515. Bring this over the top. Slowly locate it on its dowels. Which I've done there and there. That was a pointless waste of time, but anyway, doesn't matter. Okay, so now I've got the bolt. Starting along, get your 4 long ones, grab your brake clean, give the threads a wash. And you don't get brake clean on your fingers, it's not good. Give them a wipe. Then, like I was previously saying, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little bit of assembly lube underneath each of the heads of the bolts. So that, because we're only going to be talking to a 20 Newton meters, 21 or 15 or whatever you guys want to torque it to, be my guest. I'm going to torque it to 20 with my super little accurate thing. And I don't want to have a friction bind up on the surface. Alright, so we've done that. Now, the next stage. You know, on these F4Rs, these bolts, we use them on a lot of the Renaults, but there's a narrow, there's a long set, and a short her set. Okay, so you can see all that. It's basically 8 of those and there's 8 of these. Last one, again, brake clean. Give them a nice brake clean. Yeah. That one doesn't belong there, belongs in the other kit. Okay, so these are the ones that go on the inner side, so they should sit like that, so when you're 8 along there. So I'll do them 4 at a time, just so I don't have to juggle more bolts than I need to. Getting my assembly lube, just dabbing tiniest amount of this product on there. It's a really convenient way to handle this, a good quality grease, rather than working out of the bucket. 5 of those, 4 of those, sorry. So if you're salvaging, which I have, so parts out of a 1.4 twin cam, you will be able to get all these bolts off it when you're getting your roller rockers and your hydraulic lash adjusters, which are all interchangeable. But there won't be these 8. These 8 are on this F4R motor, so you'll have to hunt around. Okay, then we're left with 10 of these. I'll do them 4 at a time again. Give them a wash. Okay, there's your 4 of those. So put them across this side. There's your end caps. Next 4. Just going to wash up these 8 together. This brake clean is terrible stuff for your skin. Don't let it touch your skin. Like I just did. 4 of these. Four of those. 1. Lucky last 4. I hope this is all getting this on the film. I haven't got my viewfinder on today. Don't want to do this twice. 3, 4. Okay. So as you can see, they're all above the little, well above it, ready to start the threads. You can still see I've got that gap of about 3 mil, so nothing's pulled down yet. I'm just going to whiz round start. Now they'll tell you to do a spiral, alright? So do a spiral. You can grab a book, it'll tell you what the spirals should look like. Basically, remember, these ones, the longer they are, the more stretch you get them. Okay, so I think you can see we've developed a little bit of a bead around those areas. That cam seal here is a little bit crooked, but just push that in like that. Square it off. This friend here doesn't look too bad. Square him off nicely. You could always pull them out, put them back in. You don't have to pull this cam cover off, but traditionally, guys, if you were doing some of what I'm doing now, it might be because you need to do camshaft seals. The problem with camshaft seals is you've got to get your dephaser and your exhaust pulley off, and that's the real challenge. So if you've got an exhaust leak, it's a big job. An oil leak at your camshaft seals, it is a big job. You're going to need to remove, and then, like a lot of guys will tell you, just you may as well pull the top off, give it a clean, seal it back down again, so that you've got this nice bead of sealant around everything to stop leaks in your tubes. All right, I'm going to go and grab my torque wrench and we'll torque this down. All right, back with my torque wrench now. Make sure you get a 3/8 torque wrench that's rated. So if you're going to torque 20 Newton meters, you want to make sure that your torque wrench is rated from about 6 Newton meters. Because if it's rated from 20, you're not going to get a super accurate reading. So let's bring that up, set it at my 20.4 Newton meters. Grab the same socket I was using before. I'm going to start with spiral nonsense again. I'm going to go and find a couple of other bits for this. First of all, I'm going to grab is the variable valve timing, and I'm going to grab some spark plugs. Got some good second-hand plugs ready to go in this puppy. I'm not going to put them in now, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to set this timing. So I'm going to take our timing bar, and I'm going to now twist the camshaft to where it should be. It just doesn't want to stop. Give it a little bit, and its friend over here needs to come down a little bit. So he's good. Okay, so now this one, I can roll this that way and then slide that in like that. Okay, so right now I've got our horseshoe timing bar in. Now I'm going to do something that people say you can't do that. I'm doing it. So because you saw me turn it in the clockwise direction, I'm going to attempt to turn the crank in the anti-clockwise direction. The problem is this bolt likes to move, but I have a second nut on the inside there, so with a bit of luck I'll get a pair of pliers. So try this first, which is my shifter. Put it on that nut. Now this nut that I use is just purely there to emulate the dimensions. Let me see if the crank will turn for me, which it isn't. Tighten that up. There we go. My crank turned then. That's what I wanted. Now I've stuck this in. Out. Remembering I'm only going to get it back to the park position, which I marked earlier in an earlier video. Bring it back, back, back. Okay, now we're about to there, click. Okay, so we've got, just to recap, I've now got that locked in, that lined up where it should be, the horseshoe in the back with these camshafts on it. So until I've got my pulleys on the front of these camshafts and then the locking tool on it, and I've snugged it up, there's not going to be much more chance of locking anything down at this stage. Right. Bit of that. Now this stuff will never set, where the ooze is on the outside. So you can leave it there if you want, or you can wipe it off if you want, but it will never set. Never ever set. So if it gets in your oil galleries, it'll just go away. So I'm just going to install my variable valve controller. I'm just going to spray it with some grease, which I don't have with me. I've lubed the edge of the seal up. I'll just use a bit of assembly. Wipe that round. Again, this is the same stuff. Just want to put it into the motor as it goes past the alloy housings. I don't want it to pick up or lubricate or mark or score. I've cleaned it. I know it was operating alright until the motor detonated. I'm going to put it back on this motor. And I've done a little bead around there for the seal. Just line it up. Take your filler cap out of the way. Line the hole. And down and in. Alright, all I need now is the nut that's missing for that. And that will keep the oil out of that section for me for the time being. This up. And I want to put the plugs in, but I really want to set my valve timing. That way I can seal the back off. So the next stage is we need to get a banos. I need to get timing belt. I'm just going to do a quick clean up first. You guys are watching. So just wash this all down. So this mess. It's got a new water pump. Got a new timing cover. Sump gasket. Clean that down. I'm not doing, if you want to get involved in doing a crank seal bolt, a crank seal, then be my guest. I'm not that particularly not keen on it. What I'm going to do is, while I've got that bolt on there, I'm just going to hold the crank with that hex and then just release that. So I'm just going to show you what I had in there behind. And I use this particular bolt on a lot of motors that I do when I'm doing a timing belt, and I want to be able to turn a motor over without a harmonic balancer in it. And it's just an old, dirty old castellated bolt with a tie rod end or something. But it's big enough in the centre. The castellations will not sometimes lock onto your bolt, and you can put it in. Now, talking about cleaning, this thread has to be cleaned on every motor. What I also need to do is, it's been sitting around for a while, I just need to clean up that surface there. But before I do that, I'll just go and grab my pulley that's going on it. Just give me a sec. Just found the harmonic balancer and pulley that came off this motor. And if I just do that, see, it likes it. Give it another squirt. Again, you watch a lot of guys and they talk about cleanliness on this part of the job. And that cleanliness is all in relation to making sure their surfaces lock up nicely and they're not lubricated. So for some reason, it's a school of thought that says dry with no lube is a better solution for a crank pulley on a Renault. Personally, I lube it, as you know. I love my lubes. Lube everything. As you can see, that's now nicely binding. Spray it again. Just get my rubber mallet. Back on again. Give it a twist, give it a spray, and get it off again. And it's off. Alright, well I'm confident that's not going to give us any dramas. We've got the silly keyway that does nothing. It matches up with the keyway that does nothing. Just for fun, I'll just put the two of them together. Alright, that's done. Now what I have to do is I have to get the seal to get the new this one's not hollow, so that's right. I've cleaned that up. I'm going to just grab my thread chaser and just give that a quick chase out. That one's the bolt. I've given that enough of a clean. So yeah, bit of M8 action. Was it M10? Might be M10, so it might be stuck there. It's my crank pulley. Remember, everything has an order when you put it back together, so don't get it out of sequence. Most important one is that once the belt's on and set up, then you can put your cover on, then you can put this on. So remember that the pulley, that pulley has to be on after the belt goes on. Look at that. Bloody oil's gone into that. See that? I often talk about these hopeless crank pulleys. You can see this one's had a bit of oil on it at some stage. It started to swell there. So I don't think that's going back on this motor. Unless when it was my fault when I disassembled. Check the back. Goes right through. That's what makes your harmonic balances fail. Right. Alright, I'm back again. So this is, ironically, camshaft adjuster made by Kamoka, which is another third-party manufacturer. That is the genuine bolt that lives in there from Renault. I'm just taking it out of the packet. This is a Dephaser. It's getting a brand new Dephaser, this motor. You buy the Dephaser. Comes with a cap and seal. It's very beautiful, but it doesn't come with any bolts. This cap here. Keep it dry and clean with the threads on it. See all the little holes in it. Take out my genuine bolt. I'm going to offer up the brand new Dephaser to my camshaft. Now, what I want to make sure is that I'm not touching on my seal. Okay? So, how do we do that? ABCs. Alright, I'm back. Now what I have here is this product called Prussian Blue. This one's made by the manufacturer of engine components, Permatex. So I'm just going to put a tiny dab there. Around, clean it off my fingers, offer this up again, push it home, rub it, pull it off, and as you can see I've touched my seal there, which means my seal's not in far enough, which means it could result in a failure of my seal down the track. So I'm just going to press this seal in a little bit further. Trolley, and then give it a wipe, get the Prussian Blue off, You know, you could do a couple of ways here. You could check, you could, and it feels like that's pretty much homed there. Fortunately, I've still got a little bit of Prussian blue on the end. I'll move it to a different spot this time. Offer it up. Give it a rub. Pull it off. And I realise what I've done wrong. The wrong seal has been applied. Brain fade there. So this seal is the wrong seal. Okay, they give you two of these for different models. What I need to use on this one is the thinner one. I knew I had a mistake coming up, and this was it.